Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu
Waalaikumsalam.
wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. The expert that is supposed to handle this class still cannot make it. So Miss Dr. Tahir instructed me to conduct this class as a replacement. So I have to follow Dr. Tahir. He's my boss. Okay. Inshallah, I'll try my best. Okay. In today's class, inshallah, we will talk about the main theories of Muamalat contract. So this is very important. If you understand these theories, then inshallah you can apply and you can understand and you can answer some questions regarding the permissibility and impermissibility of sales, buy wa shira. So please pay attention, even if you're sleepy. Bu Susi, you look like you're sleepy.
Me? No, I'm okay, Prof.
Oh, okay, good. So this is very important. Inshallah, you will understand Fiqh Muamalat if you understand these main theories. All right. So like we discussed before, in everyday life, okay, we have to have the muamala with other people, right? We cannot live on our own. We have to live with others. So hablum minan nas and muamalat is very important. Every day we deal with muamalat issues, buy and shira, sales and purchase and sales, financing, ownerships of things. So it touches every aspect of our life. All right, let's continue with the definition of ownership. So we own some things, right? We own houses, we own cars, we own a lot of things. Rich people own lots of things. Yeah, poor people like me own little things, not many things, but we own some things. All right, so we need to understand the concept of ownership from the Sharia point of view. Literally, lughatan in Arabic word, Al-Mulk, ownership. Al-Mulk means accumulating something, okay? Having something, and the ability to manipulate or use or dispose of the thing that we possess. Okay, lughatan in Arabic word, Al-Mulk means accumulating or possessing something and having the ability to use it. Istilahan, istilahan means technical terms that are used by scholars. So there are many definitions of Al-Mulk, ownership. But here I summarize the common definitions by fuqaha, the Islamic jurists. So istilahan, according to many scholars, Al-Mulk is defined as a legal impediment. It's a legal impediment which lawfully blocks and entitles its owner to a disposition. So when we say Al-Mulk, we are talking about a legal impediment, okay, which lawfully blocks and entitles its owner to a disposition. Means that the owner has the right to use it, but not in all conditions. Because there are sometimes the presence of a barrier. Even if we own something, sometimes we cannot use it. All right? Not all the things that we own and we possess legally, not all of them can be used by the owner. Bu Susi, give me an example. You own something, but you cannot use.
Own something, but we cannot use.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It says the owner can use the property except in the presence of a barrier. Sometimes there is a barrier which
All right.
the owner from using his or her own property. Now, give me one example of a property that you own, but you cannot use.
Oh, okay.
Prof, money in the EPF account.
Okay, good. Yes, that's good. That's correct, Mr. Masri.
EPF, what is EPF?
Mr.
Social
Masri,
Security.
Sorry?
explain to Bu Tuti what is EPF. Okay.
Okay, EPF account is it's like a retirement fund for private employees.
okay.
Yeah, where it's a mandatory deduction of your salary every month.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
You
Understand.
cannot use the, even though it is your money, but you cannot use the money until you 55 years.
Retired. Oh, okay.
Until the maturity, right?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
insurance
true.
itu ya.
Okay.
Kind like insurance.
Until you
All
are
right.
55 years old.
Yeah,
Let me try, Prof.
Sure.
Okay, we have something like okay, a deposit. Yes, I think similar with the pension fund. But when we talk about deposit in Indonesia, there is some maturity, maybe 12 months, something like that. Yes, we have, but before maturity, we cannot use that money, right? Is that the one? Am I correct?
Yeah, that is also correct. Can anyone give another example of the barriers
Insurance?
that prevent the owner from using his property, his or her property?
Or maybe Prof,
Pegadaian, insurance or pegadaian. What's the pegadaian?
A house that we rent to other people?
Yes, that is correct. You have a house, but you rent to another
Yeah,
people,
betul.
right? That means you cannot use the house. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about legal impediment. So we say that ownership or Al-Mulk is a legal impediment. What is the meaning of legal impediment? Legal impediment means that it blocks anyone other than the owner from benefiting from and acting on the owned property without the consent of the owner. So that is the basic definition of ownership. It is a legal impediment. It means that it blocks anyone other than the owner from benefiting from and acting on the own property without the consent of the owner. For example, you have a house, or let me give another example. You have a car, right? So if you own a car, it means you have a legal impediment on the car. What does it mean? It blocks anyone else from using the car, right, without the consent of you. So that's what it means. All right. So I have a car, I have a house. Okay. So when we say that we own the house, it means that it lawfully blocks others from using the house without our consent. All right. So what are the barriers? However, even if the owner has the right to use it, there are barriers that prevents the owner from using or acting on the property. Okay, there are two barriers. One is lack of legal capacity. For example, a minor. Okay, a minor means a person who doesn't reach the legal capacity. In Indonesia, what is the legal age of capacity?
Apa ya?
17?
Yeah,
Betul?
maybe 17 or 18 usually, right?
Yes, 17, Prof.
Usually 18, right? So if a person, for example, having a property and he or she is doesn't yet reach the legal age, right? It's called a minor. So his guardians, his guardians or parents or whoever is entitled as the guardians have to act on his or her behalf, right? For example, he or she is 15 years old, right? And he or she owns a land, matalan, just for example, and he or she wants to sell the land. So according to the law, the guardian must act on his or her behalf to sell the land or any property. All right, so that's number one. Number two, right of others as in a joint wealth. Okay, for example, two people own a house, right? Two people own a house. So one person doesn't own the whole house. Right? So it's a joint wealth. So one person have to ask for permission of the other person as how to dispose of the house, how to use the house, whether to rent the house or whether to sell the house. He or she cannot act without the consent of the partner. Okay. So that prevents the owner from using the property in the case of a joint wealth, and also in the case of a collateral. Okay. For example, the owner have financing, mortgage financing, right? So he he applied for a finance and used the land. His property is a land as a collateral, right? So in that case, the owner cannot fully use or manipulate or dispose of the land because it's now is a collateral. That means the bank or Islamic financial institutions have the right to the land because it's being used as a collateral. So in that case, the owner cannot sell the land, for example, if it is being used as a collateral. All right. Where the acts of the partners and those of the mortgager are restricted despite their ownership. So even if you have a land, for example, you own a land, it's your property, but if you use it as a mortgage or as a collateral in financing, then it blocks you from manipulating, disposing the said property. That means you cannot sell, for example, you cannot sell the land, or you cannot, you cannot sell the land. All right. Are you getting sleepy?
No.
All right.
Yes, Supervisor. Yeah, it's clear.
All right. So let me ask you another question. How do you own a property? How do you own any property? Anybody?
If you have paid the full price, of a property, then you own it. And if you have paid on your own the full price of the property, then you, I think, get the ownership, isn't it?
Yes, that's true. That's the most common thing. There is a common mechanism or common way to own a property. Number one is by acquisition of permissible things. Number one, you own a property by acquisition of permissible things. Acquisitions means you buy, you pay the full price, or even if not the full price. Sometimes you can pay full price, right? Sometimes you can buy using installment. The most important thing, you purchase, right? Yeah, in Fiqh we say acquisition. You acquire a property, provided that the property must be permissible property. So remember that. Okay. Number one, acquisition of permissible property. The property must be permissible, must be Sharia compliant. Okay, the property must not be impermissible property. What are examples of impermissible property?
Boro.
Any
Boro.
property.
You can inherit from your ancestors, isn't it?
That's another thing. We are still talking about the buying and selling of property.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I said, number one is buying and selling of permissible properties, right? In order to acquire property, the property must be permissible. Now my question is, what are permissible properties? You purchase something that is permissible. You cannot purchase something that is not permissible. Now, my question is, what are permissible properties?
It is
And
Prof.
those
It's
those property where there is no objection from the authorities to buy or sell it out.
Correct.
So, yeah, that is permissible property.
Correct. Meaning there is no legal restriction.
Obligation, yeah.
There is no legal restriction that prevents its owner from selling it. Right? So that is called permissible property. So let me repeat. Permissible property is a property that has not come under a protected ownership, meaning there is no legal restriction that prevents the owner from
selling.
disposing the property, from selling the property. Now, what are the examples of properties that are not permissible? What are, give me examples of properties that are not permissible.
Like when the government allocate some property for some specific work like madrasa or college, schools, charity, and mosques. So those properties are not permissible properties. Even the governments and the public stuffs. Mostly you can say the public stuff or the government stuffs which cannot be sold out or cannot be bought. So
True.
I think that is.
That's correct. That's correct. For example, it's a property of a government.
Yeah.
Okay. Or another example is
Forest or mining.
Of property.
Mining, Prof, in Indonesia. We cannot have.
Yeah.
Mining is owned by the government. We only can share, you know, for the investor, but for the land is belong to government.
Yeah. True. That's true. That is correct. So, for example, trees in a jungle, right?
Yeah, forest.
In the jungle, in the forest, there are many trees, right? Many trees. Okay. Is protected by the government, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot sell. You cannot say, oh, I want to sell to you these trees in the jungle.
Yeah.
In bahasa we say balak, you know, pokok balak, for example, in the jungle. I cannot say to Bututi, I want to sell you this.
Jati.
Jati in the jungle.
Jati we cannot. Jati is belong to the government.
Right. So
even the water bodies, the lakes and in Uganda owned by even the mountains.
Prof, my question. You know, in the case of this, in Indonesia, there is a small island. Actually, island is fully belong to the government. But some people sell the island to the investor to build up the tourism area. So what this kind of, you know, things? Is it haram, isn't it? Because it's, you know, call it, we are talking about now, you know, the banking on finance, Sharia. If that's the case, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, in my opinion, it is not permissible properties.
Yeah.
The island, because the island, the person who sell the island, right, doesn't have the right of ownership to the island. So it doesn't belong to him.
Yeah.
It might belong to the government, right? In that case, the island is called impermissible properties.
Impermissible.
Yeah. Properties that are not permissible. So in order to have the ownership, right?
Yeah.
Number one, we must acquire properties that are permissible. All right, that's number one. Number two, okay. Number two, how do we own property, number 2.
Inheritance.
Right. True. Inheritance.
Hibah.
Yeah. So if you have rich parents, right?
Yeah.
After the passing away, you will inherit certain properties, whether through hibah or through faraid or other means of inheritance. Okay. So what is inheritance?
House.
Right. Example of inheritance are houses, right?
Yeah.
Money, it can be
Money
money.
can be, yeah.
So what
Police.
Hmm?
Police, insurance,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Beneficiary goes to
Takaful.
the, yeah.
Takaful, right? Because insurance is not Sharia compliant.
Oh,
Yeah, Syariah, that's true.
takaful.
So now we have like takaful hibah, you know,
Hibah.
where the what do you call? Where the here the where the waris, the here takes a possession of the disease, right? The waris takes a possession of the disease in the ownership
Property.
of the property. So that's the meaning of inheritance. Inheritance means the succession by which the waris, yeah, the rightful waris,
Yeah.
takes a position of the disease in the ownership of the various types of wealth. You know, it can be estate, house, cars, money, takaful, or other properties, right? What else? How do we what are other ways to acquire properties, to own a property?
Giving by someone.
Yes. If it is given by someone, that's true.
Gift.
A gift, yes. Inheritance, including gift and hibah. And the other,
Prof, how
yeah,
about concessions? I mean, exchange of is it barter? Exchange of properties. If you have a car, I want it, and I want your land, we exchange. How do we call that?
it's called akad. It's part of akad. Yes.
Okay.
It's part of akad. Akad can be exchange of things with things, or exchange of things with money.
Okay.
So that is called akad. So the number three ways of owning a property is through akad, and we will discuss the theory of akad in detail if we have time, right? So akad can be a gift, can be a sales, can be ijara, can be many things, right? And the fourth way to own a property is increasing of owned property. Increasing of owned property. Can someone explain to me what does it mean?
By making the existing property productive, so that you can get multitude of many properties out of. You manipulate the existing properties
Profit,
to
Prof,
get more property.
Yeah, I think it's a profit of the business.
But yeah, profit.
Yes.
Investment.
That's one of them.
Increase value of your financial assets as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like your shares or unit trust and others.
Yes. For example, you invest 1 million, right? And it grows to 1.2 million after the second year. So that is not increasing the owned property.
Here, Prof, here in Uganda, there is also through winning election, through politics,
Okay.
people own property. Within 1 month, someone wins the election and he has 2 or 3 streets. Very funny.
Okay. How they own property using
They
politics?
win elections. Win election,
And then
get
they are rewarded certain property.
yeah, they are, because they are driving old cars in the campaigns. So after 3 months, big cars, big building, change of lifestyle. So I think the easiest way to acquire property is winning an election in some countries.
That is not in the textbook though. Okay. So maybe they win elections, okay, and then they are rewarded with certain property, right?
Maybe.
This is a gift, isn't it?
Is that halal, Prof?
Is it
No
a gift?
corruption.
A gift or
It depends on the how they get the ownership. If
Yeah.
it's through halal ways, then it's okay. But if
not
it's not,
riswah?
if it's not,
Is
then
riswah?
I cannot answer that question without further information.
No lunch free, Prof. In Indonesia, there is KPK will catch them.
Yeah,
Corruption watch.
you need to give me more information in order to answer whether it is halal or haram. Because I don't know much about politics.
The politician knows how to make haram money become halal. Happen to all politicians in the world lah.
Iyalah.
They know how to take money illegally but look legal to us.
They are clever in this case, you know.
But from Sharia point of view, we need to get more information about how they obtain the property. So whether it is permissible or not permissible.
Because, Prof, if you look at Sharia, because I'm not an expert, I'm just learning from what you teach us. There is garar, excessive. There's something you taught us in the last lesson. If you read all over, you will see that the halal property or halal wealth takes time to accumulate. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of many legal fulfillment for you to have that wealth. But if you look at some like political election, that one we are talking about, someone accumulates a lot of wealth within shortest period of time. But after losing an election, he loses everything. So it means by process, the shortest time he owned the property, maybe he owned it in a haram way, because he loses everything and he doesn't even go to court to claim what he lost. So it means that maybe research needs to be conducted on that topic, because the shortest time he owns and then he loses without any war or without any fight for the property, meaning maybe corruption is also there. Like my brother mentioned that haram money, and it looks halal to us, those who don't know politics. Just for the discussion.
We need more information. We need research on that in order to state the hukum or the ruling from a Sharia point of view.
Okay.
So that's interesting. yeah, there are many issues in politics, but like myself, I've been very busy with academics. So I really have, I don't have much information about how they acquire the properties. Although I agree with you that there are many politicians who become rich
Yeah.
very quickly.
Sudden rich.
And we wonder how they get those properties. If they misuse the position, it constitutes rishwa. It constitutes corruption.
Yeah, rich one.
And in the Quran, Allah states very clearly, those who receive the rishwa, those who give rishwa, those who take note of the rishwa, and those who are witness to the rishwa are all finnar. All of them are in hell. So if they misuse the position, it constitutes a rishwa. So, so I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying if if they misuse the position and constitutes rishwa, then they are finnar. They are in hell. But it has to be proven in court, right? That's another thing. Some people can get away with corruption, even if they commit corruption. If they have good lawyers, if they have good lawyers, they can get away from from being charged. But in the hereafter, in the akhirah, if they commit rishwa, right, they will be in hell. Okay.
True.
So let's continue. So politics is interesting. My quick comments about politics. When someone is in power, it's a tashrif. It's not a tashrif. It's not a tashrif. It's a taklif. Tashrif is not a tashrif. It's not what's English word. Tashrif it's not kemuliaan. Bukan satu kemuliaan. But it's a taklif. It's a responsibility.
Okay.
So I see if the leader, if the leader has a correct Islamic what do you call worldview, have the correct Islamic worldview, have aqidah, he or she will understand that whatever that he or she does as a leader will be accountable in the hereafter, right? So if we have the correct worldview, we have the correct aqidah, whatever we do will be held responsible in the hereafter. The world will be led by clean politicians. Ideally, we will all be in good hands. But unfortunately, in today's world, most politicians, they don't have that worldview, When they hold the power, they will use the power to the advantage, and not thinking about how we can use the power to maximize, the rewards for the hereafter. Use the power so that in the hereafter we'll get lots of rewards, right? So however, in reality, political leaders use the power to enrich themselves without regarding, what happens to them in the hereafter. So please elect me as a political leader. So if I become political leader, I think I'll be a good leader because I have that, I have that
Akidah.
aqidah. Whatever we do here will be rewarded in the hereafter. What do you think, Abu Tuti? I can be a good leader?
You will be a good leader, but you will be very miskin, fakir, because you are not corrupter.
If I'm a leader, I will be more poorer. I'll be poorer.
Yeah,
I'll be a poor leader.
yeah,
I will donate most of my money to the people.
yeah. I believe so.
So how about how about when you lose political position and you donated everything? So
I'll be poor.
so you you have to
Yeah, it's
you
okay.
have to balance.
Yeah, I was poor once, so I'm not worried about being poor.
That's a very good statement.
Okay.
That should be the spirit of all the political leaders, isn't it? Then our world, our Islamic world can be a better world.
Yes, true.
That should be the spirit of our leader, but it's not. I don't think so. This can be done.
Yeah, people like me will never win any election.
Sometimes, the people like you never try to come within the stream, within the politics or system. That is one of the reason. And honest people, they keep themselves apart. And that is one of the reason the system doesn't get better. I mean, the people who are already involved, the corrupt people who are already involved, they remain involved.
The leader, first of all, must have lots of money, and must be able to say lots of lies.
Yeah, of course. You are right.
For myself, I don't have lots of money, and I'm not a good liar. So I will tell the truth. So I will not win any election.
Prof, there is one Ugandan who was a rich man. He owned almost half of the city. So he stood for a mayorship of the city. They told him to campaign. He told them that I'm not used to begging anything. I can't beg for votes. So he went on rally and told people that if you vote me, you will be happy. If you don't vote me, you will be sad. And then he left. He only got 3 votes only. He's the wife and the 2 kids.
That's correct.
Yeah, the liar won the election and stole many things from the city. So the rich man didn't know how to campaign, so he lost. So I think, Prof, you can also lose.
Yeah, I will lose terribly. If people ask me as a leader, can you build this bridge for me, for example? I will say, I'm not sure. I will try. That is my answer. So I will not win. All right, I think we take a break, 10 minutes break. And inshallah, we will continue in 10 minutes. Yeah? Okay. Let's have a coffee. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Everybody got coffee? I just have myself
Yes,
a
Prof.
coffee. Very nice coffee.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Enjoy your tea.
This is a coffee.
From Indonesia ya, Bro?
No, this one not from Indonesia. Yeah, I think from Indonesia. Coffee.
Iya, semua kopi itu mostly from Indonesia. We have kopi Bali, kopi Aceh, kopi Makassar. We have Robusta, we have Arabica.
This one is Kopiko.
Oh, apalagi Kopiko.
From Indonesia, right?
Kopiko is from my original city.
Okay.
Very nice. I will take some from you later when I come to Malaysia. I have too many promise to you, ya. Kacang mede, and then coffee. What else?
Cashew nut, Prof. Cashew nut is very nice, Prof.
Yeah, Prof. I have promised to have, the chili one, cashew nut with chili one, plain, and the original one. Very nice.
So
No
you have,
problem, Bu Tuti. We can make a list.
Ya, nanti kita beli ya. Kita beli bawa ke Malaysia ya.
Yes, yes.
Kita cari yang dari Makassar. Enak sekali itu cashew nut.
you have to fulfill your promise.
Yeah, sure, but I have to find my file, my visa student, Where is my visa student? Come on.
That one you need to contact the International Student Office.
No, we did to Mr. Zubair, there is no progress at all. And the expired date is September 15, isn't it?
When?
September 15, right?
That means you have to come before that date.
Without visa, can we? Without visa student, can we? Then we will be a tourist.
Mr. Shairada, how did you come to Malaysia?
Via aircraft.
What's that? What did you say?
For the immigration.
What is your about visa?
I'm telling you. I got the visa first. Eval was issued. Then I went to the Malaysian consulate in Karachi. I submitted some documents like passport, my bank statement, and there are a couple of requirements like particular size of picture and your eval copy and your admission letter and your COVID test, COVID certificate. So these are the set of the documents you submit to the consulate general in Karachi of Malaysia. Then within 3 to 4 working days, you get your visa stamp on your passport.
So you go to Karachi or to Malaysia embassy?
No, like in Karachi, suppose if I have consulate general or embassy in Karachi, Malaysian embassy in Karachi is present, then I have to go to because if you are a citizen of any country, okay, so and you are going to another country, so you have to go to the consulate or the embassy of that country where you are going to get the visa.
I know. So meaning I can collect from Malaysian embassy here in Jakarta?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah?
But how come we waiting for e-file until today, Prof? I don't know.
Best way, I tell you, the best way, you know what, most of the people, they basically, they do not know the visa and the immigration process. The best way, you just make a call to the consulate general in Jakarta, and Malaysian consulate general or Malaysian embassy should be in Jakarta. Yes. So they just make a call and they will pick the phone, and then they will tell you the set of the documents they need and the way you should apply for the visa. They will completely guide you. So you should make a call to the Malaysian embassy in Jakarta. Okay. So no need to do. Or if you want to process your visa, then I have £2,000 fee.
So no need to go to EMGS, yeah. Because according to Unisan, they waiting from EMGS. Embassy Malaysian government.
Just call them in Malaysia, in Jakarta. There must be Malaysian embassy. So just make or consulate general there will be. So just make a call. The phone numbers are available on internet. So get the phone number, make a call. They will give you complete guidance, what the documents you need and the way you should be applying. That's it.
Okay, I'm trying.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
let's do it, Bu Tuti. So instead of we waiting for don't know what happening, so I think it's better we just try ourselves maybe.
Yeah, okay. Tomorrow, yeah, Monday.
Once you got to the airport in KLIA, Kuala Lumpur International Airport, the people from International Student Office, ISC, International Student Center, will wait for you there.
Okay. Okay, Prof, no worries. After I got to KL, you know, I'm not worried. There were, you know, the things that we have incompetent is, you know, from the visa itself.
All right. Another thing about for PhD students, inshallah this Friday, there'll be proposal defense for Mr. Hamza, Mr. Shairadat, Mr. Azizul, and Mr. Suraidi. So all of them are under my supervision. So I'm very happy that all of them are ready for proposal defense. So for the rest, I'm still waiting from Bu Susi, Bu Tuti.
Yeah.
Yes, we will, Prof. Inshallah.
We send you tomorrow, Monday, yeah, Prof. Inshallah.
You submit your chapters.
Yeah. Okay.
Until chapter 4.
Yeah.
If you decide to have 6 chapters, right?
Monday, inshallah.
So you send to Dr. Tahir before September 8th.
Send to you first, right? It should be sent to you.
Until the methodology chapter.
Yeah. Is it sent to you first or directly to Dr. Tahir?
You can send both to Dr. Tahir and also to me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Before the 8th of September.
Yeah.
So that we conduct a meeting and decide the date for your proposal defense.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I want all of you to graduate on time, yeah?
Yeah, sure. You know,
Inshallah.
I also want
Inshallah.
to see you a full professor, not associate anymore.
Oh, I'm too old. So
No.
I have 4 more years. So you better graduate before I retire.
Don't say that, Prof. We try to as soon as possible and we try to be on time, Prof.
Yeah, I will help you, inshallah.
Okay, thank you so much.
At this stage of my life, I don't think about being a professor or that kind of thing. For me, I think now is the phase of helping other people. I'm thinking just about helping other people. So
How nice of you, Prof.
That's all my concern right now. I want to
Mhm.
help people in any way I can.
Okay, thank you so much. You are very nice, man.
All right, so inshallah we'll continue. This is the second slide, and I have 41 slides.
Oh my goodness, the long way.
So I don't know how I'm going to manage. So we will stop. We will stop at whatever slide that we have. All right. So let's continue. Now, there are many types of ownership. So the concept of ownership in Islam can be classified by looking at the owner of property and the proprietary right and the extent of utility rights granted. Now let's look at the classification of ownership by type of ownership. Okay, under this under this classification,
What's wrong with this?
I think I will have to unmute.
Yeah, mute one.
Let me try to unmute. Mute. Let me try to mute. All right. So let's look at the ownership according to the type of ownership. So there are 3 types of ownership according to the owners, by classification according to the owners. There are 3 main types of ownership: private ownership, community ownership, and state ownership. Now let's start with private ownership. Private ownership is the right over a property that enables the owner to exploit it, to use it without a legal impediment. And we talked about legal impediment, right? And it can exclude others. So we own house, we own cars, we own many things. That is called the private ownership. Ownership by an individual, right? Okay, so private ownership is the right over a property that enables the owner to exploit it or to use it without any legal impediment and exclude others from using the property. So a person has exclusive right or exclusive control over the property that he or she acquires through lawful means. Through lawful means. For example, by akad, okay, that is an example of lawful means. Okay, an example of unlawful means is by stealing. So stealing, stealing is unlawful means and prevented in Islam. So the owner, okay, once he got the ownership, then he or she has a right to use the property without any impediment, and he or she can exclude others from using it. Okay, no one is allowed to utilize the property without his or her permission. Okay, the owner can exercise this exclusive control over all types of properties permissible under Sharia. Okay, the properties must be permissible that we talked about. Examples of properties: vehicles, houses, intellectual properties. Nowadays, there are many types of properties, including intellectual properties, copyrights, trademarks, and what they call, and other types of intellectual properties. All right, Allah says in the Quran, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tadkhulu buyutan ghayra buyutikum hatta tasta'nisu wa tusallimu ala ahliha. Dhalikum khairul lakum la'allakum tadhakkarun." Sadaqallahul azim. O you who believe, enter not house other than your own until you have asked permission and saluted those in them. That's the best for you, so that you may heed. So this verse from the Quran says that we cannot enter any house, okay, until we have permission. So it says that if the house is owned by someone, then we cannot enter the house. In order to enter the house, we have to ask permission. So this ayah tells us that once we own a property, then we have the right to use the property, and no one else can use the property without our permission. Furthermore, the Sunnah establishes the legality of individual ownership. So individual ownership is based on the Quran and based on the Sunnah. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, every Muslim is forbidden to commit transgression onto other Muslims' life, property, and honor. So this Sunnah tells us that the ownership is allowed in Islam. Yeah? So the Prophet says every Muslim is forbidden to commit transgression, yeah, onto other Muslims' life, property, and honor. Okay, so the private ownership can be divided into two types or two categories. One is sole ownership and the second one is joint ownership. Sole ownership is the total ownership by a single person over a particular property and as ascribed right and control. So a single person has owned a property, he or she can use that particular property and has the right and has the control over the property. The second is joint ownership. Sharikatul Mulk. Sharikatul Mulk. Joint ownership. Is property owned in absolute ownership when more than one person? It can be 2 persons, it can be 3 persons, it has to be more than one person. Then it's called Sharikatul Mulk, joint ownership. The joint ownership occurs when the joint parties acquire the asset by any means of acquiring ownership. Okay. Examples are by purchase. So, for example, 2 or 3 people purchase cars, right? And they share the car. So it's called joint ownership. Examples are by purchase or gift or inheritance. For example, a deceased has more than one children, right? So he left inheritance to his or her children. So his or her children have the right to joint ownership of the inheritance. For example, for a land, right? So if the inheritance are more than one, right? So they jointly own the land left by the deceased. All right, the ownership is jointed in such a way that the owners cannot distinguish one from the other. For example, the land, okay, or the house, okay. For example, there are 2 people who inherit a house or a land. So it's 50-50, okay, 50-50. The house of the land, the house or the land, what each of the owner, cannot distinguish if which one is yours, which one is mine. It's a house we jointly own, right? So it's very difficult to distinguish. Okay, this part of my house is this part of the house is mine. This part is yours. So it's quite difficult to distinguish. So that is called the joint ownership. The right of a joint ownership is limited to the amount of the share he possesses in that jointly owned property. For example, the house, 2 people own the house, right? So the right of the joint owner is limited to the amount of the share he possesses in that jointly owned property. For example, there are four bedrooms. Okay, so 2 bedrooms for each person, but they have to share the maybe the bathroom and the kitchen. Okay, so there are parts that they can possess, there are parts that they have to share. So the right of one owner is limited to the amount of the share that he possesses. Thus, he has the right to use the whole property and to enjoy its fruits. Its fruits. If a house, if it is a house, the fruits include if they decide to rent the house, then the fruit includes the rent. If they decide to rent the house, so the rent must be shared between the owners. All right. Okay, now where are we? Okay. We finish with private ownership. Then the second type is community ownership. Community ownership, or sometimes called public ownership, refers to a jointly shared thing by the entire community. Okay? And sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between community ownership and state ownership, right? Examples of community ownership include grass, inland water resources, fresh air, etc. Anybody can give another example of community ownership?
Like, yes, community ownership may be like a society which is built or designed for some particular community, because in a state or in a country, in a city, in a village, different community lives. So that may be like a place of worship or a place of residential, even residential place can be allocated or can be like waqf for a particular community as well. So those people from belong to those community can use it.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between community ownership and state ownership.
Yeah, the state, Professor, the state ownership, when you talk about the state ownership, it means you're talking about like big things. I mean, it's a government or the government public things. And within the public and the government sector, different community may be living. So if something is like suppose work for like particular community, then that community can only use it. Other community or communities are not allowed. So that maybe, I mean, the community come within the states. That's what I understand. Anyway, you can give me better clarification.
True. The classic example is grass. For example, during the old times, you know, if somebody has a huge land and there are many grass, there are grass on the land, and the land is not guarded, there are no fence on the land, right? So the grass is called community ownership. Although the grass is on the private land, but if the land is not guarded, means there's no fence, then whoever that have what do you call the animals, you know, goats or cows, can eat the grass. So that is called community ownership. Okay, and inland water resources. For example, somebody owned a huge piece of land, right? And in the middle of the land, there is a pond or lake, right? So animals or any people can use the water, even if it's on the private land, provided that there's no fence, you know, no fence. In the old days, you know, there are no fences on the land. So the grass or the water from the river or the lake is considered as community ownership. All right. So every person who resides in that territory will have an equal right to use the grass or the water, can use it and can benefit from it. Neither the state nor other individual has the right to exclude a person from such right unless it's been converted into his ownership or possession through a legally valid mode of acquisition. Okay. So in the old days, there are lands, open land, right? So the grass on that land or the water from the lake or from the river or from the pond is considered as community ownership. However, if part of the land is owned by any individual and he put a fence on it, put a fence, then the grass in that fence is considered as private ownership. Okay, and the water in that land is considered as private ownership. Water here means water from river or natural lake, right? If the person has a piece of land, huge piece of land, and he digs the well, the lago, he digs the well using his effort, then the water is no longer owned by community. It is privately owned. If the owner of the land builds the well, the lago, using his effort, using his money. Okay. Water that is community owned is a water from natural resources like a river or natural lake or natural pond. All right. For example, after being separated from its resources, the water can be owned by an individual. For example, he made a well, right? He made a well, right? So then it is considered as private ownership. It was reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, people are a partner in three things: water, grazing grass, and fire. So these three things cannot be privately owned. Water here means water from river, water from pond, water from lakes, and grazing grass, grass that grow naturally. So, and also fire, okay? So these three things cannot be privately owned, even if it is available in private places. For example, someone owns a huge, big piece of land, right? And it is not fenced. There's no fence around it, right? So any cows, any animals can eat the grass. Anybody can drink the water from the river. Okay, it's called community ownership. For instance, concerning grasslands, everybody has the right to allow their animals to graze in both public and private lands, provided that there is no fence. If somebody put the fence, then it's a different story. It's called private ownership. All right. Now things might change because of the fence, right? In the old days, most people do not build any fence around their land because they have huge piece of land, 10 acres, 100 acres of land during the old days, right? Okay, so the The third type is state ownership. So sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between state and public ownership. I've seen lectures on community and state ownership by some, celebrities. I don't want to mention the name, and I think the way he explained it is not correct. All right, so let's differentiate between community and state ownership. Resources that cannot be immediately privatized, uncultivated land, unclaimed property, and heirless property are state property. Okay, for example, during the old days, right? There are lands that are not privately owned. Then it is state ownership. It automatically becomes the land that belongs to the state, right? So that is called uncultivated land, land that are not yet cultivated, that are not yet owned by private individuals. During the old days, there are many lands that are owned by the state. But now in the 21st century, it's very difficult to find uncultivated land, right? But in the old days. So uncultivated land, unclaimed property, and heirless property are state property. Okay. Another state property is any properties built by the government, right? Such as roads, bridges, or schools, right? So those are called the state ownership. Yeah. Any properties built and developed by the states are called state ownership. All right. Halas. We finished with the first type of ownership. Ownership according to the owners of the property. Who owns the property? It can be privately owned. It can be community ownership. It can be state ownership. Any question?
Prof,
Yes,
may
yes.
me throw an idea? In my opinion, Prof, okay, differentiate how we to differentiate state ownership and community ownership. I think let's say we take as a river as example. Okay, we have a river. In Malaysia, usually and normally river is belong to state, and state instructed Department of Irrigation to manage and develop the river. That's belong to the state. But fishes or any animals, fish such as fish in the river is not belong to the state or individual, it's belong to the community. Is that correct, Prof?
Yes. Let's make it clear like this. To me, I think you make a correct point, but I want to add another point. Let's make it clear the difference between community and state. Okay, state here refers to government. State here refers to government. I think we are confused about the state. State here doesn't mean the state. Oh, sorry. State here basically means government. All right. The government can be state and can be federal, right? Right. So in the books, we say state, but what we mean by state is not necessarily state. We're talking about government here. It can be state government, it can be federal government. Okay. So, for example, you mentioned about the river, right? The river, according to Sharia, okay, it's called community ownership. Like you said, it doesn't belong to the government, right? The fish, okay, the water, the grass, so it belongs to the community. All right. So state here means the government. For example, school, right? School is not built by state. School is built by the federal government. So for in the books it says state. So that's why some people are confused. So to make it clear, when we say state, it basically means the government of the state or the government of the federal. So, so for example, let's say uncultivated land, right? Uncultivated land. So if the land is not yet cultivated in the old days, it belongs to the government. So in the case of Malaysia, we have federal government, right? And we have state government. So uncultivated land in Kedah, for example, it belongs to the state or it belongs to the federal government, right? So that I'm not sure about that. Any uncultivated land, we have to refer to pejabat tanah, right? Pejabat tanah in Malaysia. So pejabat tanah, the land office belongs to the state or the federal government. I think
Belong to state.
it belongs to the state, right?
Land district office belong to state.
Yeah, and each district, like in Kedah, each district has its own land office, and sometimes the rules in the land office differs even between the districts in the state of Kedah, for example. Right? The land office, some of the regulations regarding the land office in Baling differs from the land office in Kota Star, for example. So that's another thing. So sometimes we are confused between community ownership and state ownership. Yeah, I agree with you. For example, fresh water from the river, right? So we cannot say it is a state ownership. We can say it is community ownership.
Prof.
Oh, wait, let me finish. The second characteristic to differentiate between community ownership and state ownership. How do we differentiate? For example, public school, right? Public school. Public school is state-owned. It's owned by the state. And we cannot say it is a community ownership. So one of the characteristics of state-owned properties are it's free, but sometimes you have to pay for what we call the fee, right? School basically is free, but there's a small fee for administration. Toilet, public toilet, is it community ownership or state ownership? It is state ownership because it's built by the government, right? But you have to pay 50 cents. Basically, it's free. 50 cents is just the cost of maintenance. So that's how we differentiate between community and state ownership. Okay, I heard somebody wants to say something. Go ahead.
Prof. Zul ni, sorry for interrupting.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry for interrupting. I just
No need to be
want a
sorry.
question. Okay, I just want to ask you one question.
Sure.
This is regarding if someone's buy a land, I mean the lot or dusun or something lah. So after that, in Malaysia, I don't know the rules of a land office, how they determine for the ownership. If the someone buy a land, and then if the ownership is total, I mean the surface of the land or including on the ground, which means that if we found something on the ground, something like gold or gas or something that is belong to the person who bought the land or the government.
Okay, as far as I know, so anything on the ground belongs to the owner, right? According, it belongs to the owner. Anything on the ground and below the ground, not exceeding how many meters? I forgot. Not exceeding certain meters belongs to the it is private ownership. However,
up to 7 meter that
berapa meter?
up to 7 belongs to the landowner.
Right.
More than 7 is belong to government.
Right.
According to the kanun tanah negara lah, Doktor.
Right. Thank you. Saya lupa tadi berapa meter. Ya. So anything less than 7 meters from the top of the land belongs to the landowner. If it is beyond 7 meters underground, right, then it belongs to the state. State here means government, right? State here means government. In some books, they simply say state. State doesn't mean the state. State means government. It can be state government, it can be federal government, it can be local government, right? So that is a confusing part. So that's why certain book it says public ownership instead of state ownership. It says public ownership. This can be confusing, but just remember when we say state, we mean government. Okay? When we say community, it means property that everybody in that community can freely use, right? Okay, Cik Zul? Kalau
Okay, got it. Thank
Cik
you.
Zul ada
Thank you,
tanah,
Prof.
Cik Zul ada tanah, tiba-tiba di bawah tanah tu ada emas. Okay, siapa punya emas tu? It belongs to the state, to the government. Kalau emas itu melebihi 7 meter ke bawah.
Okay.
Kalau ada petroleum di bawah, ada emas ke, timah ke, petroleum ke, di bawah tanah tu, underground, jauh di bawah tanah tu. Cik Zul jangan happy ya. Itu bukan Cik Zul punya. Itu kerajaan punya. Itu Ahmad Albab punya. Itu kerajaan punya.
It belong to government lah.
It belongs to the government.
Alright.
Alright. Any other question? Okay, I need my coffee now. Okay, any other question? Or any other
Prof.
comment?
Hello, Prof.
Yeah, sila.
Okay. About the ownership of the what we call valuable mineral. In 7 meters down, right? It belong to the government. That according to our what we call country regulation, the law.
State law.
How about in Sharia perspective? Is it the same, or in Sharia we have other ruling on that particular matter? Because the valuable minerals or petroleum whatsoever also discussed by ulama, like even the four mazhab discuss about rikas, what we call the ruling of zakat to be paid based on the rikas that you found in the earth. They have a discussion on that. So whether in Sharia it has other justification about the if you find something valuable under your ground. I just maybe there is a Sharia ruling on that.
Very good question. I will have to check on that. I don't have the answer. I will check on that. Very good question.
Prof.
Okay.
Mungkin boleh tambah sikit. Maybe can I add on more information?
Sure.
Okay, it depend on the land status, either 3 meters or 7 meters. It belong to government. Belong to government means in terms of the minerals or other minerals or resources, natural resources, belongs to government means that the government entitled to get a portion of the mineral or natural resource itself, such as if we have a mine, Lombok, we have a mine, gold mine, such as gold mine. Therefore, government entitled maybe around 5 to 15%. That means from total of the resource, it belong to government 5%. The others is depend on the business model itself, as well as the owner, the land owner itself, Prof.
I see. Thank you. New information to me. Thanks for the information. Then I will check on the Sharia perspective on the ownership. Okay, any other question? So for example, recast, right? If it's found within 7 meters, then it belongs to the landowner. According to the current state law. What about Sharia? That one I will have to check. Okay.
You know, Professor, like I can say something.
Sure.
Sometimes it happens, like I think in Pakistan there is a law, like if you own a property and some minerals or sort of stuffs is discovered, that would belong to the government, but the government will give you some type of loyalty.
Okay. Yes. Sure. Because even if it is more than 7 meters underground, it's not 100% owned by the government, right? So how much is owned by the landowner, how much is owned by the government depends on the mode of the business, right? For example, petroleum.
Yeah.
For example, petroleum found in Miri, just for example, in Miri, Sarawak, right? So how much the federal government gets, how much the state government gets. So that one is determined according to the modes of a business, how they extract the petroleum. from the ground, so that the percentage of ownership is determined based on the mode of business.
Right. Yeah.
And in Malaysia, that issue has not been resolved between the state and the public government. Okay, we will not dwell too much into that. We don't have time. Okay, let's continue. Classification of ownership according to property rights and extent of use rights granted. There are two types of ownership under this classification: total ownership and impartial ownership. What is total or complete ownership? Total ownership is the ownership of both the property and its usufruct. Usufruct means the manfaat or the benefits from the property, right? So if we say complete ownership, okay, so if we have total or complete ownership, that means the owner has all legal rights related to the property, including manipulating, disposing, and using the property and its usufruct. Okay, the owner is entitled to the proprietary rights, including the beneficial rights and the freedom to exercise over his property. For example, a house, right? So if the owner of the house has complete ownership, that means the owner have the right to the house, and also the right to use the usufruct of the house. What's the usufruct of the house? To live in the house, right? The owner has the house, have the ownership of the house, control of the house, and has the right to live in the house, right? So it is absolute ownership, regardless of the difference of time and place. It will not be abolished and will still be in exercise unless someone destroys their own property. So the owner has a right to the house unless the house is burned down on fire, then both the property and the usufruct is no longer owned by the owner. If an owner destroys a property over which he has complete ownership, he does not have to pay compensation, but he may be religiously accountable. I have a house, you know, I want to burn the house. All right or not? On one hand, well, it's my house. I want to burn it, so it's all right. But I am, you know, I am religiously accountable. Burning something,
Right.
burning something that is useful, so it's sinful, right? Why you burn something that is useful? So that's another matter. The owner is religiously accountable, although he has the right to do whatever he thinks is whatever he thinks is convenient for him or for her, right? Any question on that? But he is religiously accountable. Mr. Iradat, if you have a car,
Yes.
you possess a car, you want to burn down the car,
Yes.
it's all right, but you are religiously accountable.
Yeah, but and I should make sure by doing this, the environment should not be damaged.
Right,
Because
right.
when you burn the car, the flames and smokes come out and the environment is damaged. So that is the damage to the environment as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just remember, if you have like, for example, a forest, right? A forest, and then you want to cut the trees, right? And you want to burn the trees because you want to, you know, plant other types of trees. You can do whatever you want, but it is harmful. It causes pollution. So that's another thing. You know, you are religiously accountable. It is sinful to do that. You know, you burn your trees, right? Although it is yours, the trees, the land belongs to you. But if you cause harm to others, then you are religiously accountable. It is sinful. Right. Good point. Good point, Mr. Sairada.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the second is impartial ownership. It refers to the ownership of the property, but not its usufruct. You have a house, but you cannot live in your house. Or conversely means the ownership of the usufruct, but not the property. You can live in the house, but the house is not yours. Okay, so it has three types: ownerships of rights assigned to land, hukukul irtifaq, ownership over a thing only, and ownership over the usufruct only. Let's discuss hakul irtifaq, or an ease of right. What does it mean? Hakul irtifaq, lughatan, in Arabic word, hakul irtifaq refers to the right of utilization or easement. Technically, istilahan, when we say technically or istilahan, it means the definition according to the scholars. Okay, when we say literally, istilahan, literally, lughatan, it means the definition according to the Arabic word. Okay, let me repeat. When we read, books on fiqh, there are two types of definition: lughatan, literally, and istilahan, technically. Lughatan means the definition according to the Arabic word. Istilahan means the definition according to the fuqaha, or the scholars. All right. Istilahan, definition according to the scholars. Haqqul irtifaq means the right to derive benefits gratis from the immovable property of someone else. The right or haqq to derive benefits gratis. Benefits gratis means free of charge from immovable property, for example, land of another person or owner, provided no harm would be inflicted on the landlord by virtue of such right. So the Sharia recognized the right in the spirit of generosity that community members should display toward each other. So that's the meaning of Haqqul Irtifaq. And Haqqul Irtifaq is divided into, some scholars says, according to 4 types. Okay, some scholars says 5, some scholars says 6. But here I'm going to talk about only 4 types of Haqqul Irtifaq. Number 1, Haqqul Shurub. Haqqul Shurub, the right to drink water, the right to use water, whether to drink or to use for purpose of irrigation. Okay, let me repeat. Haqqul Shurub, the right to use water, whether for drinking or irrigation. So the right to obtain drinking water for self and animals from the canal privately owned by someone else, known as haqqus shurub. Okay, for example, Mr. Sairadat has a piece of land, huge, 100 acres of land, right?
I wish, Professor, that's a good example. Yeah.
Just an example to make us understand, right?
Yeah.
Then in the middle of the land, right, there is a river. There is a river. Okay, so the land belongs to Mr. Sairada, right? The river that runs across the land has water. So, Hakul irtifaq means that everybody else has the right to utilize or to use the water, whether for drinking or for irrigation, from the land that belongs to Mr. Sairada. So that means Hakul shurub. So Mr. Sairada cannot bring the gun and say, hey, if you drink from my river, I will shoot you. No, we have Hakul shurub.
Yeah, like sometimes it is, Professor, sometimes it is also called Male Majul, like the oxygen, the air. Yeah, everybody, all the human being, the creatures, they have the equal rights to be benefited. I mean, so
yeah,
I think
right. That is also part of Hakul irtifaq, but I don't put it here. I just put the four most important.
Right.
Some scholars say there are 5, some scholars say there are 6, and there are some scholars says include more Hakul irtifaq. So there are still research on Hakul irtifaq. So today we discuss only 4, but it's not limited to these 4. It includes other haq also, including the right to oxygen, right? Okay, so number 1, haqqul shurub. Number 2, haqqul majra. Haqqul majra. The right to fetch canal water from across the land owned by someone else is haqqul majra. Haqqul majra and haqqul shurub is almost the same, but not the same. Haqqul shurub, the right, haqqul shurub is more specific. Haqqul shurub means the right to obtain the water for the purpose of drinking, right? Haqqul majra is the right to fetch canal water from across the land by someone else. Okay, haqqul majra. Majra means the place to go through. Jara yajri majra. Jara mengalir, to go through. Okay, what's the difference between haqqul shurub, haqqul majra? For example, you have in the middle of the land owned by Mr. Shairadat, there is a river. Haqqul shurub means the right to use the river for the purpose of drinking, right? Haqqul majra means the right to use the water and transfer the water to a different land, different property, the right to fetch canal water from across the land owned by someone else. I have, in my land, I have some trees, right? Then I need irrigation. However, in my land, there is no river. So I have the right to get the water from the river across Mr. Sairadat's land, right? So Haqqul Majra, the right to get the water from across somebody else's land, privately owned, to my property. Okay, Haqqul Majra. Hak laluan. Okay, hak laluan. Bahasa Melayu. Okay,
Dialirkan ya, Prof ya.
mengalirkan ya.
Iya,
Hak,
dialirkan.
hak untuk mengalirkan ya bahasa
Iya,
Melayu.
iya. Itu di Indonesia banyak ya.
Ya.
Itu adanya di apa namanya? Padi, rice.
Yes, yes, rice field, yes. Yes, Haqqul Majra. Exactly. That's a good example.
Bali, Prof.
Di
Bali
Bali.
has a system they call Subak, Prof.
Yes. Yes. Because we need the water from somebody else's property.
Ya,
And we need that property untuk mengalir kepada kita punya ladang.
ya.
Ya, itu Haqqul Majra. The right to fetch canal water from across the land owned by someone else. Ya, padi, barley, or ladang-ladang yang lain lah. Padi especially, we need we need cooperation from all the landowners.
Ya.
If one landowner doesn't allow
Wow,
water
problem.
from his piece of land, we are in trouble.
Ya, problem.
Yeah. So the owner cannot stop someone else from using the water, right? The owner has a right, right? Okay, Haqqul Masil, the right to drain out wastewater over the property of someone else, known as Haqqul Masil. Okay, Haqqul Masil is like this. We have a house. We have a house on a piece of land, right? And then there is a wastewater from our house, for example, or wastewater from some other sources in our land, right? And then we need to dispose of our wastewater, right? And for example, in the neighboring land, okay, there is a pond. There's a pond, right? And then we have the right of Haqqul Masil, the right to dispose of our wasteland to the pond or to the river. Okay, that is called Haqqul Masil, provided that the wastewater doesn't contain pollution.
Iya, nggak boleh.
Yeah, you know, it's the wastewater, you know, basuh pinggan punya macam tu lah. Not water that contains chemical stuff that cause harm, right?
Iya. Unless itu loh, sumur apa? Apa Bu namanya? Unless you know what's that? Lupa namanya. Yang sumur yang dibikin itu loh Bu.
Sumur
tampung itu apa sih namanya untuk
sumur itu river, sumur itu
sumur itu well, as you know, we in Indonesia, you know, if
waduk, embung.
Bukan, kita harus punya di setiap rumah sekarang harus punya apa namanya?
Sumur resapan Ibu.
Ya, itu resapan itu apa sih Pak Yogi? Apa namanya in English? Aduh, sumur resapan, my goodness, you know, forget.
Sumur resapan. Resapan, sumur resapan. Okay, drainage. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Infiltration well, kind like that one ya. Infiltration, apa infiltration bukan ya? Ya, okay.
For example, you have a paddy field, right? You have a paddy field. In your paddy field, okay, certain times you want to drain out the water from your paddy field, right? And across our land there is a river, right, where we can drain out the water. So we have that hakul masil, provided that our water doesn't contaminate, the neighboring land, right? All right. Number 4 is hakul murur. Hak untuk berjalan, murur, berjalan. The right of access to one's property across the property of someone else. Hakul murur. For example, you have a land, okay, and you build a house, okay. Bu Susi build a house on a piece of land. In front of Bu Susi land is Bu Tuti's land, right? Bu Tuti's land. And in front of Bu Tuti's land is a main road. That means in order to access Bu Susi's house, it must go through Bu Tuti's land. Right? So in that case, Bu Susi has hakul murur, the right to go through the property of someone else, property of Bu Tuti.
Yeah.
Right? So hakul murur, the right to go through, untuk berjalan, untuk melalui, the right to access to one's property across the property of someone else. The property of someone else can be individual property. It can be the government property. In Malaysia, we have tanah jalan reserve, reserve road. Sometimes we have reserved road. So means everybody has the right to go to the reserve road. However, there are certain lands that doesn't have reserve road. That means the person who owns the land have to give hakul murur to the other person. Make a road so that anybody who doesn't access, who don't have access to their property can melintas, melalui, can go through. For example, if Bu Tuti doesn't give access to Bu Susi,
susah dia.
He cannot reach the house.
Yeah.
Prof, excuse me, can I ask something?
Sure.
Right. So in this case, for example, if Bu Tuti build the house in that land, so then I cannot go anywhere because the access will be blocked, right? so this hakul murur doesn't we can use that one, right? Because then
itu dosa itu.
Itu dosa.
Dosa, nggak boleh.
Jadi hakul murur means
Hakul murur itu is haram.
Hakul murur means Sharia gives Bu Susi the right to go to Bu Tuti's land.
alright.
Aku harus
And Bu
kasih.
Tuti must sacrifice, so she cannot build the house, yeah, Prof.
She will get reward in the hereafter.
Oh, alhamdulillah. So if she Bu Tuti want to build the house, so she have to give some, maybe 3 or 4 meters to just for the access.
Terlalu besar 1 meter saja, Bu.
No, the car just cannot access 1 meter.
You have to buy my land, for your car.
3 meters is enough. for a car to go through, right? 3 meters is enough.
Harus beli Bu itu kalau meter.
All
1
right.
meter.
Give some best price and I buy 2 meters.
Kalau
In reality, if people do not understand Hakul Murur, there is a dispute. I will close, I will block, and the person, you know, who live behind, behind the said land, have no access,
Yeah.
and it is wrong.
So pity ya Prof, kasihan dong.
Yeah, it is wrong.
Kalau Bu Susi dan saya pintunya satu saja.
After you learn Fiqh Muamalat, right, you have to give the right Hakul Murur.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah,
So those people that have dispute, they never really took prerequisite courses of Fiqh Muamalat. They don't understand. So that's why it's very important to have the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Prof. Agree.
Ini nanti semua untuk materi our exam ya, Prof ya. This is not.
I will ask about Hakul Murur.
Prof, very difficult to
You know, the material is just, you know, focus on today materials. Don't move to others.
My question is, suppose Bu Tuti has a piece of land, okay, and then Bu Susi needs to go through the piece of land to get to his place. Can Bu Tuti close and doesn't allow? If Bu Tuti doesn't allow Bu Susi to go through the land, what's your opinion? What's your opinion? That is my question.
No, that is Professor, that is not allowed. That is called trespassing.
In according to me, according to legal.
If Bhututi has got a land, I know she got a big land in Indonesia. And if Bhututi got a land and she doesn't want to walk on the land or enter anyone. So if someone enters, that is called trespassing, and I think that is a unlawful or illegal thing. The person might get caught for that.
You get 2 of 10. Your mark is 2 out of 10.
Sorry.
Two out of 10.
Yes.
I failed. I failed then.
Yeah. Actually, you know, according to me, for the legal purpose, it is, you know, it is the right of the owner, because, you know, this is belong fully to the owner. They pay, they buy. But for this is about, you know, our religious, it is haram, because we have to ta'awamum to others,
We are in class of Fiqh Muamalat.
Yeah.
Yes, Prof.
According to Hakul Murur, Bu Susi has the right to access to her property across the property of Bu Tuti. So you got 10 out of 10 if you answer like that.
No, what I was saying, Professor, I tell you, if Bhututi got a land and she doesn't want anyone to go into the land, then it is called trespassing. And if someone else goes into the land, that is called trespassing. I was saying that.
Now we're talking about Hakul Murur, the right of others to pass through the land in order to access. And if he or she doesn't have any other choice. So you have to, the answer is, Bu Susi, if she has no choice, have the right of Hakul Murur to pass through the land of Bu Tuti. That is the answer. You got 10 out of 10.
Okay. No, we have to, yeah, okay. According to law in Indonesia, yeah, as Bu Tuti said before earlier, that actually the owner actually have right, but because today we learn muamalah already, so we cannot do that, right, Prof?
They have to, yeah, the other person
Your job
have
is
to buy.
your job is as a da'i now, a da'i of Fiqh Muamalat. You need to explain to others about haqqul murur. Many people don't understand about this.
Yeah.
Not other people, myself also before don't understand, and today I think this is a really good one. So thank you for this one. Otherwise, I still believe that cannot do it.
Otherwise, Bu Susi still close her land.
Prof.
Yes, yes.
In fact, there are many real cases. This problem happened.
Yes.
Even in my hometown, you know.
Yes.
Real case that happened, and people don't understand about this right.
Yes.
So
yes.
what the common people think that when you own the land, you have every right.
Yes.
So after they have a fight with the neighbor, you know, they stop the neighbor from using their land to pass through.
Yes.
I guess the understanding and awareness about the particular rights is not there yet in our community.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe we have to make a video or something about haqqul murur. It's our job to explain to the people.
Campaign ya, Prof. Socialization.
It's our job to disseminate this information to other people. Maybe Encik Masri can have a video, you know, explaining
TikTok ya, Prof. TikTok.
Explain this. Everybody make a video, short video on something to explain to the people.
This is one of our responsibility as a Muslim, yeah, Prof?
Yeah, as a Muslim, but you know, for the regulation, probably they have to buy, you know.
Yeah.
They have to buy, for example, you know, if you have land, you know, sawah, you know, very big land. And then the other also there is
some land have reserve road.
Ya, susah, Bu. Mesti
The
beli, mesti dijual.
The issue is some land doesn't have reserve road. Like Mr. Masri said, in real situations, there are many disputes regarding this, because people don't understand about this. So from Sharia point of view, you know, haqqul murur means the owner of the land must give way for others to pass through the land in order to get access, provided that there is no other alternative. Otherwise, there will be disputes, and it's you know, non-ending dispute. Yeah, it happens in real life. Okay, number 5. Like I said, there are many. Number 5, haqqul jiwar, the right of stopping the neighbor from carrying out such modifications in his property that may cause harm to oneself, known as haqqul jiwar. Okay, you have a house, right? You have a house, and you have a neighbor, right? And then you want to renovate your house. Okay. Haqqul jiwar means, you know, the right, and your neighbor wants to build something that cause harm to you.
Yeah.
Whatever, maybe build extra roof or something that may cause harm to you. You have the right to stop the neighbor from doing so. For example, your neighbor grow trees, right? Grow trees, durian trees, and or coconut trees, right? And then you're afraid that coconut or durians may fall on your roof, you know, cause harm. Then you have the right to say, oh my lovely neighbor, please cut your durian trees. I'm afraid durian will, will cause harm to us. We like to eat durian, but we don't want durian to fall on our house. Just for example, just example.
Yeah.
Or your neighbor grow trees, and there are honey bees, that build the nest, honey nest.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, so you say, please cut, remove the honey nest because it will. We are afraid that honey will bite us
Yeah.
or bite our
Yeah.
children, something like that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
of stopping your neighbor from carrying out any modifications to his property or put something on his or her land that may cause harm to us, right? You can think of other examples.
Yeah.
Let's continue. Okay. Number 2 is ownership over property only. Okay. One person may own the property while another person owns its usufruct. Okay. Any example? Lots of examples, right? You have a house, then you rent the house. So you have ownership of the house, but you don't have ownership over usufruct. Means you cannot live in that house. Okay. So ownership over property only, but not over usufruct. You have a car, you rent the car. Okay, the car is yours, but you cannot use the car because you rent the car. So you don't own the usufruct. The usufruct is owned by the person who rent the car. What time is it? Oh, Asar time.
Yeah. Asar time already.
Okay, maybe we stop for Asar. 15 minutes break. Okay. Inshallah, about 15 enough or 20 minutes?
What time the session will finish?
It will finish 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Now it's already 10 to 20 to 4. So why don't you finish it and then 5 o'clock we finish? Only left 10, 20 minutes, right?
Oh, only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's finish it.
Yeah, Professor. Yeah, please. We have already had up one session today in the morning, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the 9th slide. I have 41 slides.
Yeah.
If possible to finish. I will give you the slide.
yeah, we will go through the slides. Yeah, that should be all. Please.
All right. All right. Ownership over thing or property only, right? One person may own the property while another person owns its usufruct. Okay. For example, you rent a house for 1 year to a tenant, right? Then over that 1 year period of ijara, you own the house, but you cannot live in the house, right? After the expiration of the contract, then you own the house and also the usufruct. Any questions on usufruct? You understand the usufruct?
Hasil. What is hasil? Usufruct.
Usufruct bahasa Melayu manfaat.
Manfaat. Use.
The benefits of using that property. Okay, manfaat. The usufruct of a house is to live in the house, right? The usufruct of a car is to use the car to go from one place to another, right? What's another example of usufruct? You understand?
Yes,
Like when the Islamic Bank give you, a house on finance, so it give you as a front, you can use it unless the full payment is made, then the ownership or the transfer will be done. So that is, you have the right to use it, but you don't have the right to sell it. So I
Right.
think that
It's about rental, yeah. This one is about rental, yeah.
I think that what different, yeah, Prof.
Uzufruct, in general, uzufruct simply means the benefit of using
Using the
particular
properties, right?
property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rental,
So
kan?
in that case, I think different when we mortgage, then we still can use the house even it's not finished yet. I mean, not pay off yet, right, Prof?
Enggak lah.
Yeah, the right to use the house is uzufruct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be anything. It's a rental. If we rent something,
It
then
depends.
it's
It depends.
temporarily owner.
It depends on the type of akad
Yeah.
that you agreed upon. So,
Mhm.
for example, if you use ijara thummal bay, ijara thummal bay with the Islamic financial institution. For example, the contract of ijara thummal bay is for 30 years, right? 30 years. So during that period, over 30 years, you have the right to use the house. You have the right to use the house as a flat. But the house is not yours yet. Then after 30 years, there is another contract, right? That is the transfer of the house to you.
Yeah.
After 30 years, then you own both the usufruct and also the property. All right. Okay. So ownership that but yeah, Bu Susi is right. This one we are talking about ownership over property only.
Yes.
For example, is you have a house, right? And then you rent the house to other people.
Yeah.
So you own the house only, but
Yeah.
you don't own the usufruct.
Yeah.
All right. Another case is ownership over usufruct only, like Mr. Sairadat mentioned, right? For example, you cakap ijara thummal bay'. So for 30 years, just for example. So during the 30 years, during the akad, so you own over usufruct only. You can live in the house. After 30 years, then there's akad to transfer the ownership. Al-bay', the first akad is ijara.
It's kind like what's it? In apartment, yeah, Prof.
Apartment or a house, right?
Yeah, apartment of a house.
And I'm just giving you an example. Ijara thummal bay'. There are two akad here. First, ijara. Ijara means renting. So you have the right to usufruct only, right? After 30 years, there's another akad, al-bay'. IFI will sell the apartment or the house to you. Then you have the right to usufruct and also the property. But during the ijara period, you have the right only to usufruct. All right. So ownership over usufruct only. In this situation, a person is entitled to using the usufruct or the manfaat only without having any property rights over the entire property. Okay?
Yeah.
A person can obtain ownership over usufruct through 5 means: borrowing, i'arah, leasing, ijara, endowment, waqaf, bequest, wasiyah, and permission ibahah. Okay? So, for example, borrowing, okay? Bu Susi borrow a car, right? From Bu Tuti. So, that means Bu Susi has the right of usufruct over the car, borrowing 1 day, or 1 day only. So, Bu Susi has the right to usufruct of the car. That's number one. Borrow, i'ara. Number two, leasing, ijara. Like you mentioned, if we rent, an apartment or a house, then we have a right over the usufruct, ijara. Okay. Endowment, waqaf. Okay, for example, a person can donate to waqaf of its usufruct only. For example, Mr. Said Uradat is a rich man. He has 10 acres of durian trees, right? And he says, I will donate as waqaf all the durians. Only, not the land. I'll give waqaf to all the fruits in my orchard. Okay? So everybody else can enjoy the usufruct. We can go to the orchard and take durian or rambutan if the owner donate as waqaf the fruits. Okay? That is called waqaf of usufruct. Because wasiyah in the, for example, in the wasiyah, the disease give wasiyah, wasiat, wasiyah, that the person can use something as usufruct. I give the wasiyah says that this person is entitled to, for example, have the usufruct of the land. Okay, that means he can build the house on the piece of land, but he doesn't own the land. He can use the land, for example, right? Or permission, if somebody permits to use usufruct. Okay, for example, I have a house. Okay, I say, okay, anybody can live in my house for free, for example, right? So there is a permission to use the usufruct. We have how many more minutes? How come?
10 minutes, Prof.
Prof, give me again, example wasiyah, Prof.
Yeah, what again? Sorry.
Wasiyah. Bequest.
Wasiyah is what's the English word? Wasiyah.
Bequest. What is one bequest?
I don't remember the English word. Okay, here's an example. Okay.
Prof, will.
Warisan.
In English, we call will writing.
Will writing, yeah.
Will writing.
Will, yeah.
Bequest or will. Okay, somebody can write a will. Okay. For example, in the will, it says, after my passing, okay, I will let Bu Tuti to use this piece of land. Okay, only. But the land belongs to Bu Susi. So that means, according to the will, the land belongs to Bu Susi. However, Bu Tuti can use the usufruct.
Oh, wasiat, Prof.
Wasiat.
Right? Wasiat. Yes, will is wasiat.
For example, if there is wasiat like that, right? Wasiat to use the usufruct. Or wasiat something like this. Anybody after my passing, I will let anybody to eat the fruits on my orchard for free. So it has a rambutan, durian, manggis, bananas. Everybody can use the usufruct, just for example. Okay. So the ownership of usufruct through wasiyah. Just example. It's not true. I just give an example.
Yeah, it's difficult. Mm-mm.
Because not many people will give wasiyah.
Yeah,
Was a fraud, right?
yeah.
So if we have lots of land, you know, we can give wasiyah like that. Wasiyah to Tafiz school, to build a house on this piece of land. So you pass away, you got the reward. Bu Tuti, you are rich, you have
Mm-hmm.
a plan. You write wasiyah. Let Tafiz school or some, you know, to use your to build a madrasah on your piece of land, so that you know the the reward will reach you even if after your passing. All right, just example. So ijara, according to Hanafis and Hanbalis, gives the borrower of particular property ownership of properties as a fraud without compensation. Okay, ijara contract gives the lessee the ownership of the leased properties as a fraud in exchange for compensation in rent or wages. All right. Waqf refers to a situation where property ownership is retained while devoting its usufruct for a specific purpose, right? So in this case, the waqif allows other people to use the usufruct of the property only, right? So for example, I have a well on my piece of land, telaga, sumur. So I said, I want to donate as waqaf the water from the sumur. Okay, so everybody has the right to get the water from the sumur. Usufruct only. Okay, ibaha or permission is given to use a perishable property. For example, permission to take food or permission to use a car or public utilities such as hospitals, gardens, etc. All right. Characteristics of ownership over usufruct. Incomplete ownership of property can be owned for a certain period in a particular place, but cannot be inherited, right? For example, you rent a house, so you can live in the house for a certain period, okay, in a particular place, but cannot be inherited. Okay, that means if you rent a house, right, and you pass away, then the contract is void, the contract is terminated. Okay, you cannot inherit, your children cannot say, oh, I want to continue renting. No, the akad is terminated. It is the view of the Hanafi, while the majority of jurists allow the remaining period of usufruct to be inherited, as they considered usufruct to be property. So in view of Hanafi, it cannot be inherited, but Jumhur ulama, majority of jurists allow the remaining period of usufruct to be inherited. So, for example, you rent a house for 1 year. Okay, after 6 months, you pass away. So according to Jumhur, okay, your children, your warid, right, can continue renting the place until the contract is terminated. The person who owns the usufruct also has the right to take possession of the thing. He has to treat the thing as trust and has to take care of it. In case the property is destroyed, he is not responsible unless negligence is proven. Once the usufruct is extracted, it must be returned to the owner. So for example, you rent a house, right? And then the house is burnt. is burnt by fire, terbakar, terbakar, but it's not your fault. It's because of the electricity problem, the wiring problem, for example. It's not your fault. So you are not responsible. Unless it's negligence. If it's negligence, then it's your fault. Okay. For example, you put lots of lilin, candles.
Yeah.
Lots of candles. You forgot to turn off the candles, and it burned the house. Then it's your fault. You are responsible. Okay. Another example, the window is broken. Okay. Suppose the window is broken. Who is responsible? Bu Susi, you rent a house, for example, and you find that the glass window is broken. Whose fault it is? Is it you or the owner? Are you responsible?
My responsible.
No, it depends.
I'm the okay.
It depends. If the window is broken
before I live there, so the owner will be responsible, right, Prof?
no. If you live there and during your renting period, the window is broken, right? So the question is, who is responsible? You are responsible if you caused the window to be broken.
Oh, okay.
But if somebody else, right, from outside, you don't know who, they play soccer and then they kick the soccer ball and it broke the window. Then you are not responsible. Okay, so it depends.
Right.
Okay. Termination of the ownership of the fraud. The termination of the ownership of the fraud can happen when a specified period is over. For example, you rent a house for 1 year. So after 1 year, you are no longer eligible to own the ownership. Number two, when the thing itself is destroyed, you own a house and the house is burned down because of fire. Okay, you cannot live there. Then the termination of ownership, the ownership of the fraud is terminated. For instance, a rented house which is no longer suitable to use. Okay, you rent a rented car, right? For example, for 1 year, and then after 1 month, the car cannot run anymore. So the contract of ijarah is terminated, and you are no longer have the ownership of the fraud. Number three, the death of one party, either the owner of the thing or the owner of the fraud. You rent a house, okay? The owner of the house passed away. Then the contract of the lease is terminated, and you no longer have the ownership of the fraud.
Begitu ya, kalau
But the reality is not like that, Prof. I don't know in Malaysia, but in Indonesia, if we rent the house and the person who owned the house is passed away, so it still continue until the contract will finish.
Yeah, that's true.
It depends on the permission of the, the person who owns the house after that. So according to Sharia, the akad is void, it's terminated. But you can continue, you can sign another contract with the new owner. If the new owner allows, for example, the son says, okay, my father passed away, now I allow you to continue renting, it's still all right. It depends on the akad. Yeah. Usually, in general, if one party, either the owner of the house or the person who rent, either one of them pass away, then the akad of ijarah terminated. All right.
All right.
Oh, I think we are running out of time. Okay. This one is acquisition of ownership. I think we talked about it a little bit, how we can acquire, how we can own the property. Number one, by original acquisition, right? For example, in the old days, there are lots of uncultivated land, right? So you can own the land by cultivating the land, and then you apply to the government, and then after a while, the government give you the title, and then you own the land. So that is called the original acquisition. Now, in Malaysia, it's very difficult to find, for example, a land that is not yet cultivated. How about in Indonesia?
Huge, Prof.
Maybe there are still uncultivated land, right?
Yeah.
You can
Forest kan, forest in Kalimantan yang.
No, Bu Tuti, forest itu buat concession, not for sale, right? Concession, right?
Ya,
yeah.
concession kan sama dengan
Sama. It's not the same.
Not the same.
Not the same.
acquisition.
There are properties that belong to the government. So that is not uncultivated land. Uncultivated land is, previously 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when the countries are not yet developed. There are still lands that are called idle, uncultivated, no ownership. Right?
Oh, okay.
No,
And
we don't have in Indonesia.
at that time, the government says, okay, whoever cultivate the land, turn the land into something.
Tanah tak bertuan ya.
Ya, tidak bertuan.
Ya, tanah tidak bertuan.
It belongs to the government, right?
Ya. Sekarang sudah nggak ada. Semua rakus. Semua rakus, Prof.
Sekarang sudah tidak ada.
But Prof, do you know transmigration? Do you know about that? Transmigrasi, because in Java Island have so many population, so the government want to in other Java Island they have so many lands, so people from Java they move to other island so that we can have same, like not only in Java but in other island also the same like that. So government gives some land, maybe 1 hectare, something like that. Do you mean like this?
Yes, that is called
Alright.
original acquisition. Yes, sometimes the government says, okay, there are these provinces, right?
Yes.
That are not yet cultivated. Means there are no people living there.
Yes.
The land are still forests, uncultivated, and then originally it's owned by government, but government says if you we can allocate certain plots of the land to the people who wants to make effort, to cultivate the land.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's original acquisition. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Transmigrasi kali.
Yes, transmigrasi they call here, Prof.
Okay, Prof. Sholat asar yuk.
Yeah, I will ask on the final exam also.
Yeah. Okay. So
in this case, the government give the legal permission, right?
Yes, Prof.
The legal permission for certain people who apply and who the government approves.
Yes.
Right? To to cultivate the land.
Ya,
Yes.
transmigrasi.
Not
The-
many people want to go there also, to want to live and stay in other side, Prof, at the time. Very difficult, right? For the transportation, for
Yeah.
electricity. So
Yeah.
government gives, maybe some money and land, something like that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. 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 It's very difficult for the what do you call for the pioneers, right?
Yes.
For the pioneers, it's very difficult because there are, in terms of the utilities, in terms of the facilities, you know,
Mhm.
there might be no electricity, no water,
School very far away.
no roads. The schools are very far away. Many people are hesitant. Only people that are desperate, the only people who are willing to work hard, willing to struggle,
Yes.
willing to live in a poor condition will go.
Mhm.
I will not go there for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Oke, yuk Bu, yuk sholat.
Okay.
Okay. I think we stop here.
Ya,
Yes, Prof.
Inshallah, we will continue next time. And then we will discuss about the final exam. So this is my suggestion. Next week, we'll finish the class. Maybe you take the exam the week after so that you have quite some time to study.
Yes.
oke.
Right?
Yes, Prof. Thanks for
Yeah.
the advice. I think that's good idea. So we have time to study before we exam, right?
Because Dr. Tahir told me that the exam is next week around 4 o'clock. So I think next week we finish the class, okay, around 5 o'clock, and then the week after maybe we'll find a time, about 1 hour or 2 hours. We'll find a time.
But there will be one more class next week, isn't it?
Yes, there'll be one more class.
So the exam will be next week also.
That's what I'm saying. I think the exam should be postponed.
Yeah, or it should be the week after the next.
Yeah, I think should be the week after. Yeah, to give
Yeah,
more time to read, you know.
And we have a proposal defense as well on 26th.
Yeah. So maybe the exam is the week after the last class. All right, I will give you this slide. On what in our WhatsApp group.
Ya.
Okay, before we stop, is there any question? Oh, I need to take
Not yet, Professor, everything is clear.
I need to take the attendance. Oh, wait.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, I will stop the recording first. You don't go anywhere because I need to take the attendance. Okay. How do I stop the recording? Fine.